All right, family. So we're here. We're here for our next interview. And, we got one of my other good brothers here. Tell me your name.
Frederick McKinney.
This is Frederick McKinney. All right, Frederick, how many kids you got, man?
I have two. I have a daughter that's 21 and a son that's 18.
Wow, 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 wow. So they're everybody's on the cusp of that adulthood now. Okay, okay, well that's good, man, because you've got a different perspective, kind of what we were talking about before,
Yeah.
different perspective of kids at 18 and 21 versus when we were at 18 and 21. So what is your greatest perspective that you learned up to this point with your kids as being a father? What's the greatest perspective you've learned?
That each one of them are different.
Mm,
I
different.
can't do certain things. I have to talk certain ways to my daughter than I do my son. Even with the age gap, they're only 3 years apart, but
Right.
just understanding that they're two different
Two
individuals.
different meanings.
So I have to try my best to meet them where they are
Wow.
and figure that out as they grow and mature, as they like one thing one moment and then the next they don't like it anymore.
Absolutely.
And just allow them to be adults too. I think that's probably the biggest perspective, especially with him turning 18, is that at this point in the game, it's kind of like whatever I taught you,
I'm now.
I feeling that it registers, or that there are circumstances that makes it register.
Man, that's powerful. That's powerful because a lot of times we try to will our kids into something, and then it never pans out the way you want it to be. So, is there a situation that you want to share that kind of was a turning point for you actually realizing that you had to let them you had to let them, one, that they were different, but also you had to let them be adults. Is there like a turning point or like a situation where you were like, yeah, this is that time?
Yeah. So with my daughter, I think it was more so her freshman year. She was at SCAD,
Hmm.
and I had to understand that I couldn't always be there to catch her.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, to although I still helped her out
right.
with certain things, but there was just certain things when it came to our classes that I just had to say, I'm like, just have to motivate. You just have to be motivated, as opposed to wanting to be the dad that rescues my daughter and, oh my God, I want her to be so great. But also sitting back and watching her just kind of become and get comfortable in her own skin, do
Mm,
things in her own way.
yeah.
My son, I think the verdict is still out. But no, but
Still in the process.
through our process, that even with him, just having those conversations of saying, hey, um, not forcing, or not saying you better do this, is now like, hey, I respect you as an adult. That's one of the conversations you had recently where I'm like, hey, you are 18.
You're
These
18, right?
at this point are making decisions, grown up decisions.
Yeah.
And then only thing I can do is support. I can give you advice, but I'm not telling you this.
Right.
And that's what it was for me, just watching him this senior year and him stepping up as a leader and learning things on his own. That made me kind of step like,
Wow. Wow. That's awesome, man, because you learn, it seems like you don't just learn from one of your children or you don't learn as a collective. You learn different things from each one of your kids, man. That's phenomenal. So, has there been an opportunity or a time where you had to, even in that step back and recognizing where your kids are, have you had to like apologize to your kids for something where, or even just make a course correction on something that you thought well, you were going the right way with your kids, but you was like, through process, through learning, through circumstance, you were like, no, this is probably the better way. Have you had a moment like that?
absolutely, a lot of moments,
Okay.
especially this year. I think one of the things that I think about for my son, especially,
Yeah.
even in this last situation of him picking his school,
Yeah.
I put a lot of pressure as a parent. Like, needs to make a decision. You need to hurry up, yeah, to do this.
Yeah.
And this generation is a little bit more reserved. So
Yeah.
and do things on their own time. But
Right.
one of the things that I had to apologize for is making him feel that that's all that I need. Or that's the only thing that I saw in him. All of something that I always, wanted to handle him about. As I stepped, I had to say, I apologize. I don't want you to feel like every time I come to your room or every time I come to you, don't come to you with a complaint.
Wow.
I want it to be, will we have open dialogue?
Yeah.
And I can express to you how I feel.
Right.
You can express to me how you feel. So we started to get to that way. Or I'll say, hey, I'm just going to give you some advice.
Wow.
I don't want to, and whatever it is that you feel that you want to take from that, you can. But I definitely had to say, I'm sorry.
Now,
Or hey, that my tone or maybe the way that I delivered the message wasn't
right. And that's powerful, man, because a lot of times as parents, we don't recognize sometimes, and not for lack of us wanting to be, wanting to do or have the best for our kids, is sometimes we have to recognize that, man, especially as fathers, the hammering, even that needs to go along with the praise and the things that you are doing right, or the things that you are, excelling at, and being able to step back in both arenas and allowing them to grow. And I think that's what I hear you saying, man, because it's almost like we're learning. And I say this on a lot of my other interviews, we're learning just as much as they are, even though we're trying to teach them. So that's powerful, man. So you're right at that cusp. So this is a great question for you. So I always ask other fathers, what was the thing that you wanted or that you think every child should know before they're 18? There's probably many things that we want to put them in, prepare them for, and all of that kind of stuff. But what's the one thing that you wanted to make sure your kids knew out of all the things, before they were 18?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's probably that they are loved, that they have a safe space.
Love a safe space, yeah.
Even if they felt like they did something way out of left field,
Yeah.
or something that they feel like they can't come back like that.
Wow.
I want to provide that. While I may be disappointed, as a father, or while I may feel that it could have been done a better way, for me, it's just still providing that, because no matter what happens in life, that's still going to be.
That's always going to step. Yeah.
I would rather, me and my wife have to create that safe space for them to go somewhere else or get a safe space. And we see that example even in Jesus Christ, in the person who we're supposed to model and follow. Jesus didn't necessarily ridicule,
right,
but he always displayed his love in a certain way. Now, he was stern on what he needed to be stern on.
Absolutely.
But he was also he's created a space for them to feel like they can talk to him. He didn't just frown, flex his power.
Right.
And because
that inviting nature,
but he had the conversations, and when they weren't doing the right things, he said that, but also gave them a way of escape. So I think you have to do the same thing with your kids. You have to give them a safe space, because with everything that's going on in life now, and so much access,
run to something that
rip up there with lose them.
Yeah,
I don't want that.
Wow, that's phenomenal, because as disciplinarians, and as hard as we want to be on our kids, that safe space is just as, or even more important for our kids, especially them growing up in this society, in this day and age. Man, I appreciate that, Fred. So last question for you, man. Yeah. What is the one thing that you want to leave with, your kids? God forbid something happens to you today and you wanted them to know. What's that one thing you wanted them to know about Dad?
I would want them to know that their dad is continuously growing. Never stop inquiring about growth, especially from a spiritual standpoint, because that journey to me is ongoing forever.
Right.
And that they have a father to continually through circumstances, to study through life circumstances, and all of those things are the sum total of what my lifestyle is. Hopefully looking like with the only another sample we have of something positive and something of continuously chasing to be better,
continuing to grow.
Wow. I pray that that's what they see.
Wow. Man, I appreciate that, Fred. Oh man, I appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
Listen, y'all, that's another interview in the books. This is interview 14. So we keeping them rolling, y'all. All right. Peace.